we were sort of looking at monitoring licenses and stuff as license usage in 12D model. It's one of those things that's been in there. It has been a little bit difficult to use, but it has been required in cases to justify purchases of more licenses or buying the right licenses and answering those business cases that we get asked. So this is already in there. A couple of things are required. One of them is you need an entry in your env.4d file. You have a choice of using usage log or usage logs. Only one of them has to be entered or can be entered. Once you enter these into your file, every time you open 12D, a log file is generated. It stores information about the user, the session, how long it went for, which project you opened and which license you used. Very quickly on, we found out that we needed something that was a little bit quicker and easier to use. The existing 12D usage.exe, it's a DOS Windows program, DOS command prompt. It uses basically a bunch of very fancy code and line to consolidate the report and give you an idea of how many licenses have been used. There's been 3 different goes at making this better. One of them was at Skirt using an Excel spreadsheet. The other one was independently put at Elliot Sinclair with the .NET. And the third one was the code, the original code. I think Owen or someone wrote at 12D Solutions. So we had a look at, after some discussions with Lee, at all 3 pieces of code and came up with a Windows application that will allow us to consolidate these reports and generate better graphs and identify the usage. The other thing that was added here was the requirement that Lee had for this to work across time zones. It wasn't really an issue for us. There's only one time zone in New Zealand. But I understand that some of the companies work across the time zones. So everything's calculated in UTC time. It uses those great XML files. And the other thing we wanted to know was frustration, users' experience. Every time you open it up and it says you can't get a license. And when that happens, 12D hasn't opened, so the log file hasn't generated. And how do we go about getting those into our reports? Our Weibo keys are actually capable of doing logging, and believe it or not, this is all documented in the 12D help. And we should probably read it from time to time. But of course we're men and we know everything and we do super users, so we don't read these things. And then Lee pulls out something like 1986, he's put this in. So one of these things, basically, you just need to get the IT people to tick a box on their server which says logging, and it creates a Weibo log. Now you could actually use this entirely to log the usage of licenses, but the one thing we were looking for was the rejections. You may have remembered in 2012 we had some 2,000 rejections on one particular day at Skirt. That was partially through some duplication of files and some frustrated users. It wasn't quite 2,000, but we definitely wanted to model this and figure out what's going on. The application is quite simple. It's got 4 parts to it. Looking from the very end, the administrator allows you to customize the final reports when you print this out to make a proposal to your management to buy licenses. Your next option here is your register of dongles. I'm not sure how many people find this difficult to figure out where dongles have gone, but in here you can basically add more dongles to your register, name them, assign a name to them and say, hey, that's with Mike or Sam or someone. Is the standalone license or a network license, and how many seats you actually got. We also have an option of adding the total number of seats for the company that will display on the graph, and of course the Weibo server log files, which are used for rejections. All of the hard work's done in the process logs engine. This looks up all of those locations and all of those log files, and it processes all the new files and adds them to the XML report structure. This is something that only your 12D administrator would do, maybe, I don't know, weekly or something like that. It only looks at the files that have not been processed, only adds to the information. However, the report tab, that's something that basically anyone could really use. It uses, at this point, the XML consolidated files to create your little lovely bars telling you if that was a network license, local license, how many rejections you've had, and perhaps what the total number available is. Here are just a few examples of graphs, and I'll quickly show you what we've been looking at in detail. There's a sample data set. It was a little bit modified. We've added a few extra log files in there. But what it shows, say, on that third column, was September last year, we have 11 rejections in green. There's the maximum number of rejections at any one time slot. When you zoom into that, it's only a couple of clicks, and you can change it to that week. So we can see it's week 4 in September. Looking at that week, you can see it happened on day 3. You can see rejections happened on other days, and they can actually happen when you haven't used all your licenses, depending on how you set up your cascading of licenses. I've set it up for us such a way that you do get a full rejection even though other licenses are available. But looking at day 3 there, 11 rejections happened 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Other rejections happened during the day as well.